Do you want a new D&D character that has something new for you every level? Do you want a character that can join almost any party composition and be able to do great? Do you want to be able to heal, tank, deal damage, buff your allies, all in one build? Well, then just sit back and relax while I tell you about it. Hey guys, it's Warners. Got another build video for you today. This is my second build for the 2024 rules. Very excited to show it to you today. This is actually based off of my D&D character that I've been playing with for the last 4 years in a campaign. We're not done with the campaign yet. My character is level 16, and obviously the 2024 rules didn't come out in 2020, so it was originally made with the 2014 rules. So this is essentially an updated version of this character. Also, it's using the Celestial Warlock, which, if you guys don't know, the Celestial Warlock originally was introduced in Xanathar's Guide to Everything, and it came out alongside the Hexblade Warlock and got a little overshadowed, you could say. Overshadowed? It got a little overshadowed, you could say. So I always thought the Celestial Warlock was pretty underrated, especially with the versatility they add to a party. They have so many support options, and it's even better in the new 2024 rules. Alongside the new Pact of the Blade changes and some other changes to the Warlock, it is quite a fun subclass, especially when you're actually playing in a game rather than just optimizing for a build video. So that being said, it's definitely not going to be the strongest build as far as damage. It's still going to be very strong, but it's definitely leaning more into the versatility side of things. There's also one more class that I'm going to be multi-classing into in this build, and don't worry, you'll find out very quickly which one it is. This build doesn't have as much weird rule changes and stuff in it, so I don't have to do a big disclaimer. All the rules are pretty standard and everyone agrees with them, so at least I hope so. So yeah, we'll just get right into the build, okay guys? So for this Celestial Warlock support Warlock build, we're gonna start with Fighter. Who would have thought? This is, again, mostly because I plan on going into Fighter anyway, and then it's nice to start with Constitution saving throw proficiency. As far as skill proficiencies, just go with your favorite. Also, as everyone knows with the new rules, light weapon dual wielding with the dual wielder feat is probably the most OP if you're going for a dex build. But because we're going Warlock and we're doing Pact of the Blade, and for various other reasons, mostly just because I have something else in mind thematically, we're gonna go dueling. For weapon masteries, I mostly plan on just using the rapier, and that's about it for weapon. So the other two masteries, just pick whatever. I'm going to pick probably short bow just to have a ranged option. But if you really want to, you could go for the short sword scimitar thing where you have Vex and Nick. But, you know, you do you. For the background, we're going to go Wayfarer. And then for ability scores, we're going 2 in Charisma, 1 in Dex, and we're going for Lucky. Lucky is a bit different in the new rules. Essentially, you just get to roll advantage, proficiency bonus times per long rest, and that'll be very good for this build, especially because you'll see what we'll be doing later on in the build. And then for species, we are going Dark Elf. As you could probably already tell if you looked at this little image here, this is because of a couple reasons. First of all, as a Warlock that we'll eventually go into, we are going to have access to the invocation that gives us Devil's Sight. And even though Warlocks have access to the Darkness spell, a Warlock spell slot is worth a lot more than other casters' spell slots. And it would feel really bad, especially at higher levels, to use like a 5th level spell slot for Darkness. And Drow get Darkness and Fairy Fire cast once per day. They also have 120 feet of dark vision. They get the trance ability that every elf gets where you don't need to sleep and magic can't put you to sleep. This is actually helpful because the sleep spell was buffed recently, so I could see DMs casting that more often, potentially. You can finish a long rest in 4 hours if you spend those hours in a trance-like meditation during which you retain consciousness. So again, yeah, you have 4 hours long rest. And then you also get Fey Ancestry. You have advantage on saving throws you make to avoid or end the charmed condition. Before I go any deeper, I'm going to tell you sort of the kind of idea I have for this as a character roleplay wise. I would imagine that this is some sort of elf drow warrior of some kind. In the campaign that I play in, the backstory was that he was killed in battle without any allies, and then he heard a voice in his head, and the voice said, "I can bring you back to life if you promised to serve me." And then all of a sudden he has a Celestial Warlock pack. And this guy not being the best of guys, and it being a Celestial patron, he doesn't like it very much. But over time, he's redeemed, and he learns to like his patron. That's kind of the storyline I'm going for this build. In my campaign, it's a bit different actually, but that we don't have to talk about that unless you want to. Ask in the comments and I might tell you. Okay, ability scores. We're going point by, as we always will. So we plan on eventually going for Pact of the Blade, but we still need to have a high dex, and that's for a few reasons you'll learn to understand pretty soon. But that being said, dump strength, don't worry about that. 15 dex, 14 con, dump intelligence. Let's get our wisdom modifier at least to 10, just so that, if we have to make a wisdom saving throw, it isn't the worst thing ever. And then charisma at 15. But of course, for starting equipment, I would just go with the gold, and then just manually pick everything personally. That's how I would do it. Oh, by the way, earlier when I said short bow, I meant to say hand crossbow, so you could use it with the shield. So I would try to get the weapons that you got the weapon masteries for, and a shield. Get some crossbow bolts. I'm gonna mostly go for the rapier shield, and when I need to do range stuff, I'm gonna use the hand crossbow. And then that's level 1. I will mention a few things just for people who haven't read the 2024 rules much. So as a fighter at level 1, I get weapon masteries. And essentially what weapon masteries are is there's certain properties that weapons have innately, but only a weapon master can use them. So the main one we're going to be using for this build is Vex. Vex is pretty simple. It says if you hit a creature with the weapon mastery weapon and deal damage to it, you have advantage on your next attack roll against that creature before the end of your next turn. And because we went with the lucky feat, we right now at this level, we have 2 luck points. So that's 2 advantages that we can get for free. And then you just have to hit, and then all the way to the end of your next turn, your next attack will be at advantage. So you're going to have advantage a lot and pretty easily. I feel like it's going to be almost all the time, especially with the stuff we're going to get in the future, you'll see. Also, second wind, you now get 2 charges at level 1, but you gain 1 back on a short rest. The dueling fighting style gives us +2 damage with a one-handed weapon as long as we have no weapon in the other hand. So even though we have a 13 dex mod, our rapier is doing 1d8 +5 damage. Level 1 is just whatever. Level 2, we go for Warlock.
Now, this is just a very short level 1 thing. I'm eventually going to go to Pact of the Blade.
But right now, for this level 2, level 1 Warlock, I'm going to go Pact of the Chain instead of Pact of the Blade. And the only reason why...
First of all, you can replace an invocation whenever you gain a Warlock level.
But also, guys, I just want to... Mostly just because I want to show you this crazy thing. So the new Pact of the Chain has a few new Pact of the Chain options. This one is the Sphinx of Wonder. You can technically get this at level 1 if you pick Warlock at level 1. This thing has 24 hit points, flying speed of 40 feet, and if you want to, you can replace your attack with their attack. It is 1d4 +3 slashing damage, plus 2d6 radiant damage. And then they also have this ability called Burst of Ingenuity. They can do it twice per day. The Sphinx of Wonder or another creature within 30 feet makes an ability check or a saving throw. Response, the Sphinx adds 2 to the roll. I will say though, let's say you want this thing to attack every round and you don't attack. If you want to do that, just know that it requires their reaction to attack when it replaces your action. So they wouldn't be able to use this Burst of Ingenuity. If you want to hit point sponge on the field and you want to use this Burst of Ingenuity, that's pretty worth it. That's kind of fun, especially at level 2. At this level, this 1d4 +3 slashing damage and then the 2d6 radiant damage, it does a little bit more damage than your regular attack. For cantrips, we're going to go Booming Blade and Eldritch Blast. Booming Blade has the potential to do more damage, but the target at this level, the target would have to move away. It doesn't start doing extra damage per hit until level 5. It will eventually be better, but then pretty soon after that, you'll get extra attack. So just kind of, think about that. I definitely go for Witch Bolt though at this level. And Hex is pretty decent too. Might as well get it. If you want to have more reliable advantage, I would go for Devil's Sight now, because remember, you have that once per day casting of darkness. And then I'm going to get Lessons of the First Ones, and I'm going to get the Musician feat. And this is mostly so that I can help the party out more. Pick whatever instrument you want, doesn't really matter. Go with, you get 3, shockingly. But it's mostly for encouraging song. As you finish a short or long rest, you can play a song on a musical instrument with which you have proficiency and give heroic inspiration to allies who hear the song. The number of allies you can affect in this way equals your proficiency bonus. So you just give your party heroic inspiration. That's amazing. That's great. If someone else already has this feat, then go for whatever you think is best. You could honestly just go straight into Pact of the Blade now. You could go for Armor of Shadows. A lot of options. I forgot to mention armor, by the way. Because your strength is low, you can't get like super heavy armor. I'd probably start with Scale Mail and then shoot for getting Half Plate. With your shield and everything in Scale Mail, you're at 18 AC. Half Plate would get you +1 more AC. So just if you can ever get 750 gold, then boom, you got your Half Plate. Okay, we got Warlock level 3, and we are going Celestial Patron. Before we go into that too, I forgot to mention Magical Cunning. Basically, once per long rest, you can get a Warlock spell slot back. So that's cool. So I'm going to go over the Celestial spell list real quick. So in 2014 rules, Warlocks didn't get the spells automatically prepared. Instead, what happened is they had the opportunity to pick the spells from their patron spell list. In the new rules, that's not how it works. You actually get these spells auto-prepared for you. So right at level 3, we get Aid, Cure Wounds, Guiding Bolt, Lesser Restoration, the Light Cantrip, and the Sacred Flame Cantrip. What's great about this is, first of all, Cure Wounds has been buffed. It's now 2d8 instead of 1d8. And then every spell level you upcast it, it goes up by 2d8. And Aid was not on the Celestial Spells spell list for the Xanathar's Guide to Everything release. Daylight has also been buffed. It now counts as Sunlight for if you're fighting certain undead. And we got Guardian of Faith, Wall of Fire. Those are great. Greater Restoration's great. Summon Celestial's pretty good too. And then Healing Light. This is the main ability that Celestial Warlocks get that I think is really great, and I love it. You gain the ability to channel celestial energy to heal wounds. You have a pool of d6s to fuel this healing. The number of dice in the pool equals 1 plus your Warlock level. As a bonus action, you can heal yourself or one creature you can see within 60 feet of yourself, expending dice from the pool. The maximum number of dice you can expend at once equals your Charisma modifier, minimum of 1 die. Roll the dice to expend and restore a number of hit points equal to the roll's total. Your pool regains all expended dice whenever you finish a long rest. So essentially, you get a pool of dice. This is basically Paladin Lay on Hands, but it is ranged, a bonus action, and you can do as many d6s up to your Charisma modifier. So this isn't that good if you're just doing a Warlock dip, but if you're going deep into Warlock, this is great. All right, so at level 5, character level 4 Warlock, we get our first non-origin feat, and we're going to go for Elven Accuracy. Basically, when you have advantage, instead of rolling 2 dice, you roll 3 dice, and you take the highest roll. It's specifically, though, with only Dex, Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma attacks. Luckily, all of our attacks are either Charisma or Dex. And we're going to up the Charisma score just so that it is at a 4. And then this is when we're going to switch out Pact of the Chain at level 5. Warlock level 6 character. And we're going to go into Pact of the Blade. Now you can use your Charisma modifier for your attacks. You can summon any pact weapon in your hand, any simple or martial weapon of your choice. As a bonus action, we're going to go for the Thirsting Blade invocation. And then we're going to go ahead and pick up Eldritch Smite. At level 6, I'm going to tell you the damage, but first I'll tell you the rotation. Around this level, you're going to stop using Witch Bolt. You could pick up Cloud of Daggers if you feel like you can keep an enemy in an area. Let's say there's another party member that is a grappler build or something of the sort. Cloud of Daggers would be great. What's great about Cloud of Daggers is it does damage without any saving throw. You can move it, but it does take a whole action now, and it only does damage once per round per enemy being hit. Hold Person is good if you're wanting to paralyze someone. We're going to assume, though, that you're going to go for Spirit Shroud. Thunderstep is pretty good too, though. But yeah, Spirit Shroud is going to be the spell you're going to be concentrating on. Counterspell isn't as good as it used to be, but it's still good to have just in case. So again, I don't know how your table does short rests. My table, we usually do about 2 short rests per day, and we kind of limit it to that. It's kind of funny. That's actually how Baldur's Gate 3 mechanics work. So I, in my campaign, wouldn't be able to do short rests whenever I wanted to if I had an hour free. It would be a little more different. But let's say your DM is fine with that, is fine with you. Like, let's say you say, I'm an elf,
So I only need 4 hours to get a long rest.
the rest of the party takes 8 hours to long rest. So for those 4 hours, I'm going to choose to cast aid on myself and a couple other people that are sleeping. And then we have plus 10 HP, and then I'll do a short rest and get my spell slots back. My DM wouldn't like that, but maybe some DMs would be fine with that. And if so, you can cast aid in the morning, which is nice. You get a plus 10 to 3 targets. But as far as when combat starts, I would probably cast Spirit Shroud. Basically, you get to do extra damage of cold, necrotic, or radiant. Forgot to mention, by the way, Pact the Blade allows you to make all your damage from your weapon psychic, necrotic, or radiant damage. So for the theme, we're going to make all of our damage radiant damage, like all the time. What's nice about Spirit Shroud as well is it's a bonus action to cast. So essentially, we're going to be doing 2d8 plus 5 per hit when Spirit Shroud is active. And then if we get a crit, we're going to pump an Eldritch Smite into it, which at this level, our spell slots are 3rd level. And oddly enough, Eldritch Smite works like how old Paladin Smite worked, so we don't have to save a bonus action to use it, which is pretty funny in my opinion. It says once per turn when you hit a creature with your packed weapon, you can expend a packed magic spell slot to deal an extra 1d8 force damage, plus another 1d8 per level of the spell slot. What's interesting about this wording is this isn't plus another 1d6 per level higher than 1st level, it's per spell slot. So what that means is that a 3rd level spell slot is 4d8, and then you can give the target the prone condition if it is huge or smaller, and that is with no saving throw. So there's another way to get advantage on your future attacks, because you'll be able to automatically make a target prone. All right, so our first damage report, level 6. For the rest of the damage reports, I am going to be doing essentially a burst round. What the burst round will be like if I use a lot of my resources. At this level, I don't really have a lot of resources, but I did input, if I get a crit, it will add the Eldritch Smite. So that's included in the DPR. And in the future DPR damage reports, I will assume that I get 1 riposte, because I'm going to go Battle Master, and I'm going to assume that I always have advantage, because with Lucky and a lot of the other abilities that I'm going to get in the future,
We're going to go with what I get at advantage.
so at an AC 10, we get 37.67 DPR. At an AC of 15, we get 36.4 DPR. And AC 20, we get 31.22. So not great damage at level 6, but we get quite a big bump at the next damage report. Hey guys, if you're enjoying the video so far and you're interested in more build videos in the future, also some just general D&D discussion and commentary, then consider subscribing down below, maybe sharing the video to some friends of yours. Thank you so much. Now that we have gotten extra attack from Thirsting Blade, we're going to start going back into Fighter. And right away at 2nd level, we get Action Surge, which now cannot be used for spells, in case you didn't know, but it can be used for attacks, and we're attacking a lot anyway, so that's fine. And then Tactical Mind. You have a mind for tactics on and off the battlefield. When you fail an ability check, you can expend 1 use of your second wind to push yourself towards success. Rather than regaining hit points, you roll 1d10 and add the number rolled to the ability check, potentially turning it into a success. If the check still fails, this use of second wind isn't expended. So I want to kind of remind you guys about the survivability we have now. So we have 2 uses of second wind, 1d10 plus 2 healing. Armor class is 18 or 19 depending on the armor that you've acquired. And then you have 6d6 bonus action healing that you could do on others or yourself. And then with this new Tactical Mind ability, you can use 1d10 on a failed ability check. That's crazy. Okay, and they're going 1 more level into Fighter. And we're going to go for Battle Master. Pick your favorite for Student of War. You get an Artisan tool and you get to pick a new proficiency. And then the maneuvers. So there's a few that are essential for this build, and there's a few that you guys can pick whatever. I really, really want to have advantage on this build as much as possible. So I'm going to go for Trip Attack. Then, because I'm going Sword and Board, I'm going to have a pretty high AC a lot of the time. So I'm going to go for Riposte. This just makes it so that I can use a reaction to hit a creature that missed me with an attack. So that's good for damage for sure. Getting more attacks, especially because they could potentially be a crit and then I could Eldritch Smite them. And then honestly, this ability isn't that great because it doesn't last very long, but I want to have a way for this character, if they really want to be able to tank properly. And so I'm going with Goading Attack. When you hit a creature with an attack roll, you can expend one superiority die to attempt to goad the target into attacking you. Add the superiority die to the attack's damage roll. The target must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or have disadvantage on attack rolls against targets other than you until the end of your next turn. So it's basically like a soft taunt. And if you do this ranged, like let's say you do this with your hand crossbow, you could make it so they have disadvantage to attack everyone else and then you're far away. That's kind of fun too. But we are done with fighter now, and now we're just going to go straight into Warlock, okay? Level 6 Warlock, you get this ability that isn't very good. It's one of the weaker abilities that Celestial Warlocks get, and there isn't really anything we're doing that can benefit from this yet. It says you have resistance to radiant damage. Woo. And then once per turn, when a spell you cast deals radiant or fire damage, you can add your charisma modifier to the spell's damage against one of the spell's targets. So what sucks about this is it's only fire damage or radiant damage when you cast a spell specifically. And if it's an AoE spell, you can only pick one target that you can add your charisma modifier to. So, could be better. Level 7, we get another Eldritch Invocation. I think by this point, I would feel pretty secure with my advantage having abilities. So I would probably stop using Devil's Sight, and I would definitely go with Eldritch Mind. You might want to do Eldritch Mind earlier in case you're worried about your concentration, but you are proficient in Constitution saving throws already because you picked Fighter at first level, so there is that to think about. This invocation is kind of fun. It used to be pretty bad. One with Shadows in 2014, it was the same thing. While you're in an area of dim light or darkness, you can cast invisibility on yourself without expending a spell slot. But the 2014 version said if you took any action or moved, you would become visible again. This one's kind of nice because you're actually casting invisibility on yourself and it stays for the normal duration. It's just that you have to be in dim light or darkness at the beginning of it. That's a pretty solid invocation. And unfortunately, there's not really a lot of desirable ones at this level range, but there's more later in the future that you could replace it with. Level 7 Warlock, we get 4th level spells. This one's really fun, Guardian of Faith. You're going to auto get this one. Essentially, you summon a Guardian of Faith, and any enemy that moves within 10 feet of the Guardian for the first time on their turn, make a dex saving throw or take 20 damage on a failed save or half as much damage on a successful save. The Guardian vanishes when it has dealt a total of 60 damage. What's great about this is it's on a Warlock, and it lasts 8 hours non-concentration. So what that means is, let's say you're about to start a long rest and you have both of your Warlock spell slots. You could put 2 Guardian of Faiths around your camp and they could protect your camp. And if you have a lot of short rests, it could get crazy. And then Shadow Moil, if you're really having trouble with advantage, or if you really don't want to get hit, Shadow Moil is a great offensive and defensive option. It makes you obscured. What I find interesting about this spell is, based on what I'm reading, not even people with True Sight can see you with this, because it's not magical darkness or anything. It just says, flame-like shadows wreathe your body until the spell ends, causing you to become heavily obscured to others. It just says you become heavily obscured. So it's not invisibility. It's not magical darkness. It's essentially like fog cloud. And I don't think True Sight sees through fog cloud. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about that. And then you auto get prepared Wall of Fire. Wall of Fire is a great control spell and a pretty good damage spell as well. I pick up Dimension Door for sure. Oh yeah, one thing to know is the reason why I have been going into Dex is because the superiority dice maneuvers, the saving throws will be based off of 8 plus Dex and proficiency bonus. So that's why if I want to be able to trip attack and goading attack or any other maneuver that requires a saving throw, then I need to have a decent Dex as well. And that being said, we're going to start building towards that, and we're going to go for Defensive Duelist. So Defensive Duelist is actually a feat that I took on this build originally. It's not really that good in 2014, but when it works, it feels awesome. It's now even better. So if you're holding a finesse weapon and another creature hits you with a melee attack, you can take a reaction to add your proficiency bonus to your armor class, potentially causing the attack to miss you. You gain this bonus to your AC against melee attacks until the start of your next turn. So basically, this is shield for only melee attacks, and instead of it being 5, it's your proficiency bonus. So eventually this will be higher AC bonus than shield. You have to have a finesse weapon, which we do with the rapier. And the old version, it was just for one attack. Now it, just like shield, it lasts until the start of your next turn.
So I'm going to assume that by this level you have half plate.
So that would mean that your reaction can make your AC 23. That's really good. And then at level 11, which we're at now, we'll do a damage report.
So we got our burst round here at level 11, and at an AC of 10, it is 131.5 DPR. AC of 15, we have 130 DPR. AC of 20, we have 119.4 DPR.
So now we're going level 9 Warlock, and this gives us our 5th level spell slots and 5th level spells. I definitely go with Synaptic Static. If you don't know Synaptic Static, it does really good damage, like about the same damage as Fireball, but it's psychic damage and it's an intelligence save. So a lot easier to succeed on it. And then it debuffs anyone who failed with 1d6 for all its attacks and ability checks, as well as any constitution saving throw to maintain concentration. And what's great about it is after I cast this debuff on them, I don't have to concentrate on it. It's just an attack spell that debuffs the enemy. There's this new spell, Jalarzi's Storm of Radiance. I think this spell is great. Essentially, it is an AoE damage spell that does radiant and thunder damage. It blinds and deafens the target that is inside of it, and they can't cast spells with verbal components while they're in the area. This is a great bomb to throw on spellcasters. It lasts for a minute, and it does 2d10 radiant, 2d10 thunder damage, and it's a constitution save. What a lot of people don't know, at least in the 2014 Monster Manual, even though player characters know to stat into con for a spellcaster so you can have good constitution saving throws, a lot of stat blocks for spellcasters, they actually have a pretty low con saving throw. Like I just pulled up this random NPC 11 challenge rating, Shadowkai Soulmonger. They have Bestow Curse, Finger of Death, Gaseous Form, Seeming, some spells. Con save? They're not proficient in con saves. Their con is +2. Look at that.
Again, we don't know what the new monster manual is going to look like.
And we go level 10. We get another invocation. I'm going to go Pact of the Tome now. It's actually mostly for a different invocation that becomes available if you pick Pact of the Tome. Pick some cantrips that you don't get from Warlock if you want.
You can even pick Sorcerous Burst. I don't know why you would, but
you can. And then, pick some, pick Find Familiar if you want. I'm not going to include that necessarily. That could be another form of getting advantage if you want. You know, there's Detect Magic, there's Identify. I would probably pick Identify in my campaign because no one in the party has Identify, and it's rare that we find someone to identify stuff. But yeah, pick whatever rituals you want. And then I would probably switch out one with Shadows with Gift of the Protectors. So essentially what this is your whole party. Well, it depends on your party size. It's your charisma mod, which eventually will be +5. Your whole party, they write in a book, and basically they all collectively are sharing a death ward. And whoever uses up the death ward uses it up for everyone. So everyone has a death ward on them, but only one person can redeem it, if that makes sense. And it only works every long rest, but that's nice to have. Another thing I forgot to mention about this build, one of the great things about it is so many things come back on a short rest. All your Battlemaster combat superiority dice, 4 of them, they come back on a short rest. All your Warlock spells come back on a short rest. So really nice synergy with that. We get a second wind recharge back on a short rest, you know? Okay, level 11, also forgot to mention Celestial Resilience. This is very good, especially because we also have the aid spell. So you gain temporary hit points whenever you use your magical cutting feature
or finish a short or long rest. We're getting these temporary hit points all the time.
These temporary hit points equal your Warlock level plus your Charisma modifier. Additionally, choose up to 5 creatures you can see when you gain the points. Those creatures each gain temporary hit points equal to half your Warlock level plus your Charisma modifier. So at this level, we're level 10 and our Charisma is 4. So we get 14 temp HP automatically in the morning, and the party gets 7. If we're casting aid on everyone in the morning and then maybe taking a short rest, let's say, hypothetically, you're getting your HP maximum brought to 118. So you're getting 34 more HP than a similar Warlock at this level. That's pretty crazy. So you're a bit tankier, and your party's tankier. And then you have that collective death ward. So you got the death ward, you got temp HP, you got aid, you got bonus action healing, you're giving everyone heroic inspiration, and then level 11 we get a 6th level spell. Warlocks don't really have that many good 6th level spell options for their Mystic Arcanum. Honestly, I went with Summon Fiend in my playthrough. This spell's very good. One of the main reasons it's so good is at 6th level, it gets 3 attacks, especially if you go with the Devil option. It gets 3 attacks, and they're 2d6 plus 3 plus the spell's level fire damage. That is 2d6 plus 9 damage, 150-foot range. After you cast the spell, they last an hour, so you could pre-cast this summon, have a large-sized demon flying around you, without using any action. They're doing, if they hit every turn, I'll put the DPR here if I decide to. Every turn, they're doing 66 plus like 20 something damage. But for this build, because we're going for the helper one, you could either go for Tasha's Bubbling Cauldron. This is really cool. You get to make potions that are either common or uncommon. The amount you can make is equal to your spellcasting ability modifier, minimum of 1. So like 4, you can get 4 potions of healing. You get 4 of different kinds of potions. I feel like this will be better once we get the new monster manual. We'll be able to see all the potion options. But for right now, I'm actually going to go for Soul Cage. Soul Cage, I think, is very underrated, this spell. So it's a reaction which you take when a humanoid you can see within 60 feet of you dies. So again, it's a little campaign dependent because not everyone is fighting a lot of humanoids, especially at higher level. In my campaign, we're always fighting humanoids in my campaign I'm playing in. So you might want to figure out what kind of campaign or enemies you're expecting. But basically, as a reaction when a humanoid dies, you can take their soul, and without concentration for 8 hours, you have 6 charges, soul charges, and you can do these 4 different things with them. You could heal yourself, which with all the other bonus action heal yourself, with all the other bonus action healing, you're going to be able to stay up so long with your second wind, with your healing light, and then steal life. Oh my gosh, so much healing. You got this, which is basically like Speak with Dead. You got Query Soul. This one's interesting. It gives you advantage on an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw as a bonus action. So again, another way to get advantage. And then this one's interesting. Basically, you get to scry on a place they saw in life. Very fun spell. Love it. Level 12, we get a few things. We get an ability score increase or feat. We're gonna finally cap our charisma, okay? So we have the 20 charisma finally. And then we get another invocation. This is a big one, guys. I'm sorry, fighters, but we get Devouring Blade. The extra attack of your Thirsting Blade invocation confers 2 extra attacks rather than 1. This is a big boost to our damage, and we now have old Paladin Smite basically with Eldritch Smite, and we have the 3rd attack that normally only fighters get. And then I forgot to mention at level 11, we got a 3rd spell slot. This is going to make those Eldritch Smites feel a little less bad. We're going to have one more spell slot, you know? Okay, level 13, we get another Mystic Arcanum. This is one of my favorite parts of the build. We're going to go for Crown of Stars for our Mystic Arcanum. So this is a non-concentration spell that adds a bonus action spell attack that is at 4d12 radiant damage. And now we actually have a way to use the level 6 ability Radiant Soul consistently. I forgot to add it into the DPR calculations, so just know the DPR will be slightly higher, but just a +5 per round if we hit, so not by much. And you get how many uses of it? You get 7. You get 7 charges of 4d12 damage on a bonus action. One thing I will say though, this build is mostly a melee build, so some of your spell attacks might be at disadvantage because they're ranged. So you want to figure that out. You might want to take the Spell Sniper feat if you're really wanting to hit on those attacks and you're really wanting to rely on this Crown of Stars spell. Now this is kind of weird, but you could even think about going with the whip option because it is a finesse weapon, so you could still use defensive duelist, but it also has reach. It doesn't have vex though. It has the slow property. But yeah, that's just a possible idea if you really don't want to get disadvantage on your Crown of Stars star attacks. Level 14, we get Searing Vengeance. This is really cool. This is essentially the subclass capstone. When you or an ally within 60 feet of you makes a death saving throw, instead you have the creature regain hit points equal to half of their hit point maximum. If they were prone, they end the prone condition on themselves. And each creature of your choice that is within 30 feet of the creature takes radiant damage equal to 2d8 plus your charisma modifier. And each has the blinding condition until the end of the current turn. Let me know, guys, does this mean that you get your turn? Or is it because you're making a death saving throw? Wouldn't that imply that it's at the end of your turn? So you do get to come back up, you're healed half, you do this big AoE that does a little bit of damage, but then it also blinds people till the end of the current turn. So you might not be able to do much, but it's a great way to heal someone, do some damage, do some battlefield control, and it is a reaction. So yeah, pretty great. So level 17 burst round, numbers are getting really high. We got 215 for AC 10. We have 212 for AC 15. And we got 196.8 for AC 20. That's pretty crazy, guys. And level 15, we have another Eldritch Invocation. I'm actually going to go with this new one. It technically was in 2014, but it really sucked. This new version of Witch Sight. You just have True Sight with a range of 30 feet. That's amazing. And so if you still had Devil Sight, if you decided to keep it, you don't need it anymore because now you have True Sight. It is only a 30-foot range, but you're playing a melee character anyway, so it works out, you know? And then we get our Mystic Arcanum, level 8. This is a great time because the only good spell, in my opinion, for this level is Maddening Darkness. This is essentially a giant Hunger of Hadar. Magical Darkness, 60-foot radius sphere, so 120 feet across, if that makes sense. It dispels magical light from spells 8th level or lower. Whenever a creature starts its turn in the sphere, it must make a wisdom saving throw, taking 8d8 psychic damage on a failed save or half damage on a successful one. So we got a giant, huge, big AoE of magical darkness that you can see through because you have Witch Sight, and it does 8d8 psychic damage. Well, you can't even see all the way through it though because you only have 30 feet of True Sight, so it's like, dang. Anyway though, this AoE is a little too big to use it all the time. When you can use it, it'll be really awesome, in my opinion. Level 16, we have another ability score improvement, and this is when the boons are available. I'm going to go with the Boon of Combat Prowess. I know that most people go for this one, and I'm going to be one of those most people. The thing is, all of our ability scores are even right now, so unfortunately it didn't really pan out to help us much. But if you're playing past level 20, then this will be nice. But it says when you miss with an attack roll, you can hit instead. Once you use this benefit, you can't use it again until the start of your next turn. And what's great about this isn't limited to melee attack rolls or spell attack rolls, or just any attack roll. Unfortunately, I haven't found a way to really factor this into DPR. So I did the work and I'm doing a lot more of the DPR math, but I don't know how to put this there. So the DPR will actually be a little bit higher than what the numbers end up being at the level 20 DPR breakdown. But then finally, level 17, level 20 character. This gets insane, guys. Okay, so this spell is not very popular and it actually isn't that good most of the time. But you have to understand, I have Elven Accuracy. So we're going with Blade of Disaster. So I have Elven Accuracy. I have many ways to gain advantage. This is what this spell does. It's essentially a super spiritual weapon. You create a blade-shaped planar rift about 3 feet long in an unoccupied space. You can see within range. It's a bonus action. It is concentration. So you cannot use this and Crown of Stars, but it'll be useful to have Crown of Stars still, I think, because you'll be able to, when you run out of this spell slot, you still have an option, you know? You can make up to 2 melee spell attacks with the blade, each one against a creature, loose object, or structure within 5 feet of the blade. On a hit, the target takes 4d12 force damage. This attack scores a critical hit if the number on the d20 is 18 or higher. On a critical hit, the blade deals an extra 8d12 force damage, or a total of 12d12 force damage. So basically, you crit on an 18, 19, or 20. It's 2 attacks. This casting time is a bonus action to cast it initially and every time you do it on other turns. If you crit, instead of being what it would normally be, which is 4d12 doubled, it is instead 6d12 doubled. So it ends up being 12d12 force damage when you crit. Does that make sense? It's a little confusing. If you read it wrong, you might think it means 24d12, which would be insane. But no. It is 4d12, but on a critical hit, you add 8d12, which means it is 12d12 force damage on a crit. I did the math, and with advantage, elven accuracy, and being able to crit on an 18, 19, or 20, there's a 38% chance that you will crit with Bladed Disaster. And it makes 2 attacks when you do a bonus action. I'll explain all the math in the editing room, but think about this, guys. Your action, you're doing 1d8 plus 6, but you have 3 attacks, and then you have 4 superiority dice. So let's say, for the sake of the math, let's say you do 1 superiority dice of like tripping attack, and then let's say you're lucky enough to have the target miss you, so you get 1 extra attack to use your riposte. That is 7 attacks on the action surge round if you get a riposte, plus the 2 attacks from Bladed Disaster. And then if you get a crit on your weapon attacks out of 7 with advantage and elven accuracy, I could see you getting at least 1 crit in there. Then you can Eldritch Smite. An Eldritch Smite with a 5th level spell slot, that's a 12d8 dice. So yeah, there's kind of a big jump in damage from level 19 to level 20 if you're using this spell. So I just finished doing all the math for the burst round with Blade of Disaster. And you have to understand, we're taking away concentration from Spirit Shroud. So that takes away a lot of damage. And also, we can't do the bonus action Crown of Stars. And so, surprisingly, in the burst round, we actually do less damage with Blade of Disaster than we would with the Crown of Stars Spirit Shroud combo. But I will say, in a regular round, not burst round, we would for sure do more damage with Bladed Disaster. So honestly, probably the best thing to do would be to action surge when you have Spirit Shroud up, and then the next round, you drop concentration and go to Bladed Disaster. Oh, anyway though, I love this Warlock because you can be so helpful to the party. You're buffing everyone, you're buffing yourself, you're a battlefield controller, you're being a tank, you're healing people, you have all the way up to 9th level spells, but you're still a fully functioning melee class with 3 attacks per turn. This just feels great. What I like about this too is it has a big power curve at level 20, like characters should, but also if you don't even get to 20 in your campaign, it's still really fun all the way through, in my opinion. So yeah, that's the build though, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna do a few videos that aren't builds here soon, more just discussing the new rules. So get ready for that. And then I have a build to kind of like be a companion piece with that ranting video. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. And if you have any recommendations for these build videos, if there's anything I missed or anything you would like to suggest for this build or any future builds, go ahead and let me know down in the comments. Also, I stream on Twitch. It's mostly gaming content. I also have a community Discord, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out. Thank you.